Greetings exiles, I'm CodRayZeal, and joining me today as always are Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III.
Hey!
And Frank.
Hi.
And today we'll be going over some changes to the BLAM Dark Pact Totems if you're tweaking your build for a specific thing, such as Endgame Bosses, map clearing, or just some general magic finding with Bisco's collar and whatnot. So without any further ado, let's start with a Wither Totem for fighting those endgame bosses. Now, in order to get the Wither Totem set up, we need to change our helmet setup, which is currently our cost while channeling Wither, by removing Molten Shell for increased duration, Temporal Chains for Spell Totem, and Cast while channeling for faster casting. I recommend getting a second helm to do this with, since Lightning Warp enchants aren't that expensive. Otherwise you'd have to keep recoloring your helm. Now, this of course would cost us one of our Dark Pact Totems, but it would still be a net damage boost if we weren't able to channel Wither before at all. And now, in order to circumvent this, we can spend 5 regrets to change our Guardian Ascendancy to the Hierophant Ascendancy. This will give us another totem from whatever's socketed in our helm, which means that in addition to all of our Dark Pact Totems, we can also summon a Wither Totem. Now, this will cost us a bit in terms of curses, and since we'll have about 20% curse effectiveness, we'll get the following results when we have all the curses on us. They are 15% resists. This is from all of the 4 elemental curses. We'll lose about 6% damage from Enfeeble. We'll get to 5 to 15% increased damage taken from curses like Vulnerability and Projectile Weakness. And lastly, we'll have a small amount of vulnerability to elemental ailments. I feel that all of this in combination is quite worth it if we're doing things like Shaper and the Guardians and we weren't going to survive some of the big hits anyway. This way we can always keep that Wither up and we can decimate the bosses quite substantially faster. Now let's go over Blight with the Spreading Rot Jewels. Now what this basically does for us is it gives us an extra little debuff to give to the enemies, whereby they'll receive 50% increased chaos damage for about 2 seconds after they've been hit with Blight. The Blight itself won't do any damage, but I believe this 50% increased damage, which is worth about 7 or so Wither stacks, is pretty good for fast map clearing and also topping off your Wither stacks. Now obviously this comes at a cost, but that cost is fairly low. We take out our cast when damage taken in Feeble setup and replace it with Blight, an increased area of effect, keeping the increased duration in there. This gives us a pretty substantial hinder as well, which when you hit the boss at the right time can even function like a stun, because some bosses, if they're in a walking animation, they'll complete that walking animation before they do something else. Of course this does come at a cost of 2 jewel sockets in places we don't really have jewel sockets yet. If we look at the passive tree, we'll see that we have 3 spots for the jewel. One that would cost us the energized armor jewel and with it some armor, and 2 that would cost us about 3 points each. So this is more of a high level thing, since it's going to at least cost us 3 additional points and an energized armor, but preferably we'd like it to cost us 6 points and keep the energized armor. All in all, this is a great combo for mapping since the Blight AoE is pretty large, and instead of placing wither totems down or whatnot, you can pop your totem and just tap the Blight key to get some Blight going. It's also very defensive as it gives you an 80% movement slow, and this seems to work on just about everything that I've tried it on. Lastly, let's go over some rarity and quantity gear we can use for farming easier maps. I've been using these to farm shaped spider forests. Gotta get that head hunter. First off, Wheel of the Storm Sail. Now this might seem crazy and like a silly thing to use, but in addition to the rarity that it gives us, it also doubles the duration of our Soul Mantle curses, which means we can get that increased damage from self-flagellation for much longer while we're clearing. It's a much smoother process, so if you can sacrifice the life, armor and potentially an additional totem, then it's well worth using. Next we have Bisco's Leash. Now this sacrifices some life and armor and we lose about 1 or 2 flask uses depending on the flasks, but we gain Rampage, which boosts our movement speed, damage, and just has some cool effects happen around you while you're killing monsters. In addition to that, it gives us 5% increased item quantity, as well as some item rarity based on our current Rampage streak. Next up we have Bisco's Collar. We lose some life and life flask effect, but luckily since our amulet doesn't have any defenses or stats on it, we can swap these out pretty quickly, pretty freely. And while we lose that life and flask effectiveness, we gain a huge amount of item quantity when killing normal monsters and a huge amount of item rarity when killing magic monsters. All in all, it's great for farming things when you didn't really need that extra defense from the Blood Grip amulet. And lastly, we can swap out one of our damage supports for an item rarity support, giving us up to 69% item rarity. Now I'd just like to share my conclusion of the build in general and just how I found it to play. Without a doubt, Dark Pact Totems has been one of the most powerful builds I've played, specifically for its versatility. As mentioned in previous videos, I've managed to do the Eternal Labyrinth with little effort. I've managed to complete the Shaper, Uber Atziri, the Guardians, you name it, this build has done it. And now with these extra changes for rarity, bosses and map clearing, I believe that this is one of the most versatile builds in the game right now. I've spent the better part of a month playing this build, which is unusual for me, but I've greatly enjoyed every second of it, and I'll likely still be using this character to do anything that my other characters can't do. So from myself, Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III, and Frank, we'd like to thank you for watching, and good luck, and stay juicy. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button, and if you have some friends who would like to benefit from this content, then share this video with them. And lastly, if you really like the style of content on this channel, do hit that subscribe button.